Welcome to Next Level News. As always, I'm your host, Coronations. Let's get to the news. A huge milestone for gaming has just happened, as the Library of Congress has just announced that it will be preserving the Super Mario Bros. Theme as part of the National Recording Registry. This small section of the Library of Congress is responsible for dictating what pieces of music and audio are worthy enough to permanently be stored and preserved. This is huge, as the theme is being inducted alongside freaking Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven and Madonna's Like a Virgin. Yeah, Mario Bros. Is as cool and iconic as Madonna. This comes as a surprise, as game preservation has been a long-time, futile effort, as the industry has made little to no attempts at working to preserve gaming history. Save for a few preservation societies that are run by people outside of the industry, there has been no internal attempt at making sure pieces of gaming history stay preserved and safe to see for years to come. Many issues like Nintendo's hardcore protection of their copyright, and combined with their constant DMCA threats to people who preserve the extensive catalog of games that Nintendo has made no attempt to upkeep themselves, has led to many of the first games' source codes from the days of the NES and even further back being completely gone. Alright, you can stop buying Pokémon cards now. Not because they aren't cool, but, well, Japan is entirely out of the product. That's right, there are no more colorful pieces of cardboard available in Japan, as well as worldwide shortages as well. The reason for the shortage is due to the newly released Clayburst, Snow Hazard, and Paldea Evolved packs. The new packs hit store shelves on April 14th and features Pokemon's latest region from Pokemon Violet and Scarlet. The Pokemon Company has responded to the severe shortages and stock issues by letting their consumers know that they are working around the clock to get Pokemon cards back in Japanese stores. We are still in a new game drought, but I want to complain about games, so let's talk about a game from 2008 that finally got brought to PC in a remaster. Fatal Frame: Mask of the Lunar Eclipse.
I'll take a look at the others.
You know what? No, I'm not playing this game. I can't. Let's do fucking Peppa Pig. Alright, so, this game's kind of boring, but, you know, it's not really made for people my age. But... Oh, fuck! Fine, I'll play Fatal Frame. Just stop. Fatal Frame is a series that started back in 2001 that quickly developed a cult following. The first two entries into the series were originally released on the PS2, and if you were lucky, the original Xbox if you could find a copy, with the third being exclusive to the PS2 and then later titles migrating to the Wii and Wii U. Only in the past couple years has Fatal Frame seen any sort of mass release, as later entries in the series finally made their way to most major platforms. That brings us to Fatal Frame: Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. Originally released on the Wii as the fourth entry in the series, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse acts as the series' origin story, with the game taking place 6 years before the events of the original Fatal Frame. The game is grounded in the 1980s and takes place on the remote island called Rogetsu Island, that is just downright terrifying. Due to the lack of ports, with the only access to the original games being stuck to either getting an original copy or buying a PlayStation 3 and then buying them on that digital storefront, since I have access to none of these, this will be the first time I've ever actually played a Fatal Frame game. And to be honest, this is probably the most scared I have been playing a game in years. The story of the game covers 5 girls, a reporter, and weird cult shit that happened on the island 10 years prior. You play as various characters as you uncover more and more of these characters' pasts with the island and the events that transpired a decade ago, and why all these characters felt compelled to come back to the island that they had forgotten. The idea of switching between third-person perspective for exploration and first-person perspective for combat does better than I ever thought it would. The helplessness you feel when you are in third person and a ghost is attacking you versus the game forcing you to get a nice good look at said ghost to fight it in first person is awesome, and constantly had me sweating as I struggled to manage avoiding ghost attacks and in turn dealing my own damage to the ghosts. The way Fatal Frame handles combat is also unique, as the game equips you with a mystical camera called the Camera Obscura. You are equipped with various types of film that vary in strength and a few healing items to help you survive. This camera mechanic is super unique, as other games have picked up the idea of placing the player on the other side of a camera. While combat is pretty slow, it really upkeeps its fear factor, as you're forced to quickly look around the room as you try to keep track of where the spirit is. There is a character that does not use the camera, and I will say the game is significantly less scary with him, as he is always stuck in a pulled back, third-person perspective as they use a flashlight instead. The flashlight also has way less customization compared to the camera, so I found myself dreading every time I had to play this guy. The atmosphere and fear factor just kind of fell apart with this guy. Not only that, but the guy felt clunky. One of the main gameplay features of the Fatal Frame series is the constant spawning of random, non-hostile ghosts. You're encouraged to take photos of these ghosts before they disappear for good. When playing as the various female characters in the game, this is no issue, as their weapon is a camera. You know it makes sense. See ghosts, take photos. But for Mr. Flashlight Guy, you need to have a specific lens attached to your flashlight that makes it able to capture these non-hostile ghosts. However, this lens makes it so you can't fight hostile ghosts. This means that when you play his sections, you are constantly going into your menu, equipping the camera lens, fighting the ghost, equipping the lens, exploring, and the moment you get into a fight, doing it all over again. It's annoying. It really took me out of the atmosphere of the game, as I quickly found myself not having the spooky fun I was having only 10 minutes prior. This guy's sections are also filled with way more enemies because his flashlight is so much better at fighting multiple ghosts at the same time. So the game quickly switches from a chilling survival horror game to third-person fear. Gripes aside, how scary is the game? Welp, if you're like me, it's utterly terrifying. I am a huge horror fan, but something about Asian horror has always messed with me in a way Western horror has never even gotten close to. Fatal Frame legitimately scares me. I had to play the game with either my friend, who also loves horror, or my girlfriend, who just wanted to offer me emotional support. I could only play the game in hour to 2 hour chunks, as the game quickly drained me emotionally due to how scared I was just constantly. A lot of it had to do with the audio. The game's audio is grade A fear fuel. All the rooms feel different, and when you enter rooms that have a bloody history, the audio feels heavier and even more hostile than before. Dead Space Remake tried to play with the idea of Isaac Clarke slowly going insane with its audio, including more severe whispering and voices as you progress through the game. It, however, fell pretty flat on its face with how far and few times it actually made itself a focal point of the game. Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Eclipse is different, though. I constantly was straining my ear to understand what I was hearing that was just out of view. This goes even further in the game's various cutscenes. Fatal Frame isn't like horror films where maybe there's a ghost in a shot and that the character doesn't notice or only catches a glimpse of in their spooky house. Nah, this place is filled to the brim with ghosts. The game legitimately felt like every room had some poor soul residing with it, trapped and unable to leave for some cursed reason. There are ghosts in practically every single cutscene. Some the characters see and interact with, and others that stay to themselves and go unnoticed. The ghosts are also pissed off. Every single one of them seems to be pissed that you're there. Whether it's a girl who lived there, a small boy, a doctor, a patient, a nurse, you name it, the game has it. Overall, Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Eclipse is an experience I would say to try and play. It's not revolutionary, it's just scary, with an atmosphere that is unrivaled in today's horror genre market. While the game shows its age in both design philosophy, looks, and controls, it is still an amazing and unique experience you should at least try once. I'd recommend taking a chance on this game if you see it on sale. Easy 7 out of 10.
And that will do it for Next Level News. As always, I'm your host, Carnations. We'll see you next time on Next Level News.